Goodo.
Whoop.
Well, I guess I can do some damage control to start off from last week, I guess.
Do
I
it.
don't know. I said that a 10-year-old girl invented the first wind-up torch, but they've been around for fucking donkeys, like Lucas said. But it was a 15-year-old girl who made a torch that was powered by your hand, the heat of your hand. So that's still pretty cool. That's about it, really.
And welcome to the Technically Wrong podcast.
Always keeping to the title's name.
Yep. Every episode, just everyone.
Yeah. I think I'm going to have to do a lot of damage control. I tend to ramble and just pick random things that I've heard over the years that aren't backed up by anything.
Welcome to the entire podcast.
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much. It's just opinions. Save the facts.
So that's all you need. Just opinions. Like, your opinion is fact.
Oh, yeah. That's my quote. You're stealing my quote there.
It's a terrible quote, and it's not really a quote because it's not really recognized by any form of anyone.
Well, it hopefully will be.
I doubt it very much.
Do you have a quote, Lucas?
No, not really. I'll probably think of one later.
Yeah, see? You don't have a quote.
Yeah.
Because I don't
join
need a
the
quote,
cool
that's how
club.
good I have.
You're so good that none of your...
Because they need it.
That nothing you say is quotable. So good that nothing you say is worth quoting.
Absolutely nothing.
Because probably if you quote me, it'll be out of context and just sound really stupid. But then that's
like everything you say.
Pretty much, yeah.
But anyway, now we've like rambled on for like 5 minutes and not talked about anything. I guess me and Luke were kind of having this conversation beforehand, Lucas. So I'll kind of bring you up to speed. We were talking about so this week there's been a new release of Ubuntu, because I want to start here, otherwise we'll never recover it. There's been a new release of Ubuntu, 16.04. It's the long-term support release. Be supported for 3 years or 5 years or whatever, however long it's supported for. And so, I mean, the release is cool. You know, it's just another version of Ubuntu. But we were kind of chatting about why Ubuntu is important, because realistically, Linux is a thing, and it's an operating system that, you know, it has its very kind of core user base, and people go on about various different distributions, whatever their favorite. They'll argue for years and it'll never end. But it's not widely supported. Like, a lot of people are more recently are starting to support it, but there's just not a lot behind it. And the reason why Ubuntu is so important is because it's kind of the one that's kind of most backed out of all of the Linux communities. You look at the Linux community as a whole, like Ubuntu is by far the largest and has the largest newer kind of Linux fan base. But and you look at what that is, like, it's like desktop releases of the operating system are becoming more user friendly, and I think I mean, personally, you're welcome to weigh in on this, but personally, I would really love in the next couple of years to see Linux become a thing. Like desktop,
absolutely. Yeah.
Desktop Linux becoming like prominent. Everybody, all games, apps, and everything supporting it. Because I think open source is a good way to go. Like, Microsoft is having issues with Windows 10. There's not only like numerous bugs and security issues, but
well, the problem with Linux has always been there's so many distributions that it's a nightmare to just develop for, because people are going to have their own extensions, their own plugins, their own directories. It's just a complete nightmare to actually develop anything. It's like why, porting to PC is so difficult if it's originally a console game, because so many people have so many different variations in computer hardware that it's a nightmare just to get it running on just a wide variety of that hardware. And a lot of the time, like, I have a 7990, a lot of the time, because that's such a niche and relatively obscure card. I mean, I really haven't met many people that know what the fuck this card is. it doesn't run in games very well. Whereas if you get two 7970s, it runs perfectly fine. But because this is a single card and they're always together and it's slightly different than the regular, it runs kind of odd. And that's a shame. And with Linux, we need something like Ubuntu to be very controlled, very simple, and just easy to use, and just friendly in a way. So people get on it. More people using Ubuntu, then software developers can port to Ubuntu, and then once they start doing that, they can start porting, or even people, if they make it open source, people can port to their versions of Linux. And I mean, people will do that anyway. There may be some lawsuits involved, but hopefully, if we can get Ubuntu, I mean, it is the most popular, and that's because it is kind of the easiest to install, the easiest to kind of understand from a standpoint of even Windows and Mac users and stuff like that. So if we can definitely just get something that is solid and something that most people in the community are using, even if you do like something like Arch Linux or Debian or something, install Ubuntu on a computer or something, because that still counts. If you use it every now and then, it will count to the amount of people using it, and hopefully to the software development of companies trying to port it over.
Usually, the porting's usually a problem. One, the user base is the problem, and two, the main problem is graphics card manufacturers not bothering to release drivers for Ubuntu and Linux.
See, this is something that's changed recently over like a couple of generations. Like you're finding that Nvidia and AMD have like native Linux drivers now, and more importantly than that, there are also open source drivers which are developed by the community, which are also kept up to date. And so there are
a lot of the time they're better.
Yeah, they really are.
just to point that out, one big push for that will be Valve and SteamOS, because they pressured Nvidia and AMD.
Potentially.
It's basically because with them basically making SteamOS, a bunch of game companies went, oh, well, there's a giant user base for Linux operating systems now, because everyone who uses Steam is like, oh, I might try this out. And then all
SteamOS
of a sudden,
kind of failed. It's a shame. And
but
like I said,
failed. It just hasn't launched yet. But in the wake, yes, SteamOS itself didn't launch, but it launched the fact that people do play games on Linux, Ubuntu, and whatever else. That's forced more support for it.
I do agree with you, Lucas, in the sense that SteamOS was a massive flop in the long term, but it started a conversation about gaming on Linux, and I think that was the importance of SteamOS. And I think that's because now game developers are recognizing Linux as a platform. More and more indie games especially are pushing this hard, where Linux is a supported platform for almost all indie games now. Major titles aren't there yet, and it'll take more users, and that's ultimately all Linux needs. It needs more people to be on board to become a real desktop operating system. But with more people becoming computer literate, more people getting interested in that sort of thing, it'll happen sooner or later, and the sooner the better.
I think the other thing that's probably going to help push more people to it is if Microsoft keeps going the way like with its UWP, its Universal Windows Platform, of its use for games. I think that's going to push more people towards not using Windows for the pure fact, if you can't mod games easily, or the games break constantly because of terrible porting to it,
Yeah. Now, something which is interesting over the last couple of weeks, I don't know if we talked about this last time, I can't remember, but something interesting that's been happening this week is there's been integrations with the kernels between Linux and Windows. And so something Microsoft has kind of backburner been working on is just that. It's like running Ubuntu's Bash kernel underneath Windows, and the same with Linux. Like there are Windows subsystems for Linux that are capable of technically emulating, because it is technically emulation despite the fact it's a kernel module, x86 applications for Windows. And I think them showing interest in that is going to be a sign of the future. Like, it's not the first time Microsoft has shown interest in developing for Linux. Office could well go that way. And so I think it'll be an interesting one to watch.
Just wait. So you'll be able to see from a Windows operating system a Linux-based hard drive, like the stuff. Because currently,
and desktop, yeah. But yeah, you and me talked about this last week before a couple of days before the podcast. But we were saying that we were talking about the overhead that Windows has because of all the legacy support and just how taxing that is. And that's why, Arch Linux is so small, because you build it up, it gets bigger as you go, but nonetheless, it doesn't have all the legacy support that kind of Windows does. But with Linux, we sort of need a bit more of that. The good thing with Linux is you can add all of that after the fact. However, a lot of the time you might even have to just add it into the original install kernel to get the computer running in the first place, which turns a lot of people off. So with Ubuntu, I think the way it should go is, unfortunately, it should dumb it down a little bit. But fortunately, that will get people on the Linux and talking about Linux and using Linux anyway. And then after that, you can experiment with something a bit more complicated. So I think it should streamline it just a little bit more. Maybe make it even more, in a way, bloated. But just to get kind of people that are still too used to Windows and Mac OS and stuff. But it's nice that they have an option for GNOME now. I think that's a step towards just getting a lot more Windows users on, at least.
It's an interesting feature which is nice under Ubuntu, and one that a lot of people don't realize is that it natively supports just in Ubuntu. This is on the server side. I don't know about desktop. I don't use a desktop enough to know. But I believe it has KVM built in, and it's kind of difficult to set up through that. I would recommend VirtualBox, but what you can do is you can set it up so that Windows will be seamless with Ubuntu. So Ubuntu will be running. It'll be running in Ubuntu OS, but it'll then emulate Windows, and you'll have your taskbar at the bottom, and your GNOME taskbar at the top. For Ubuntu.
Oh, that's nice.
And you can run any Windows app, and it will appear Windows. Like there won't be any flip between they kind of integrate between each other. It's as it says, it's a seamless Windows experience inside Ubuntu. Now there are some bugs with it, and it's got issues, but it's a really great platform and definitely worth a look if you're kind of interested in Ubuntu but still need your Windows.
And the more people that adopt, the better it will get. That's kind of how Linux works in general.
Especially now, like KVM and VirtualBox are supporting more hardware pass-throughs, and so now it's not only just emulation, but you're physically giving with that Windows OS that's being emulated the real hardware. Like you're not just emulating it anymore. Like it has access to that card, and that card belongs to Windows and not Linux.
Yeah,
which is makes, really important for gaming. That's so big.
Yeah, I mean, if you have two 980 Ti's or something like that, you could have one in Linux and one in, or even just a lower level like 960 or something, and then a 980 on the top. That wouldn't work because Nvidia are arseholes and they don't let you cross graphics cards. I mean, it wouldn't work with AMD either because they're such vastly different kind of specs wise, but you could still have like a 960 on the kind of low end on Linux, because you're not really going to be running super intensive games like GTA 5 and all that stuff on Linux. But you could have that as a Linux kind of driver, and then you could have the top card as your Windows for your gaming. And does it work with the monitors? If you were to plug one of your monitors into the second graphics card, or even just the first, would it then use the horsepower of the other one to drive that monitor, or how does that work?
I believe they all have to be plugged into the Ubuntu, the base operating system monitor for the multi-shot. But another option for you to do is, if you're going to split the cards, you can literally have it so Ubuntu is the thing running, and I'm using Ubuntu as an example. Any Linux will do it. Using Ubuntu on your main desktop, and then you can have a second monitor inside a second card that, when it boots up, emulates Windows. And so
that's the one.
You can one screen is a full Windows desktop emulated OS, and the other one's a full Linux OS, and they both run simultaneously with their own hardware.
Fantastic. That's exactly what I was hoping that it would do, and that's phenomenal. I mean, yeah, for people like me with 3 or in the future hopefully 4 monitors and stuff like that, that's fantastic. I mean, 2 monitors for each would be would be great.
I imagine you'd be able to do that. I mean, with the multiple cards, I don't see why it wouldn't be supported. I mean, you'll probably run into a few issues here and there. As I say, it's one of those technologies that's kind of coming along and has been coming along for a long time. It's not by any means perfect, but it certainly is usable.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that I'll definitely have to check that out. But again, I need to just kind of fix my computer in a way. My graphics card has been dying for many years now, and it just doesn't. It's not stable. If I install any version of Linux, I tried. I tried many. I tried Arch at first because I wanted to install Arch, and then I tried Fedora. I didn't really want to install Fedora, but I figured, just it's got a few more options. It's a little easier, to modify and a little more open than Ubuntu. And then I thought, screw it, I'll go for Ubuntu. It'll work. I mean, come on, it's got to work. And it was horribly unstable on this system. So once once I upgrade my hardware, I think it's just a graphics card with driver issues and stuff like that. Then I'll be able to run Linux and do all that fun stuff, because that sounds thoroughly interesting.
Yeah, it is. I go a lot of it is getting it to work. When you get into kind of the more emulation side of things, it becomes a little bit more interesting. There are quite a few technologies at play, so there's a lot to learn, but it is certainly interesting.
But just again, I don't know what graphics card to get really. I mean, I've got as much stream processing power as a Fury X, but I got this graphics card 2 years ago for half the price of a Fury X, so I just can't justify buying a Fury X. I guess I'm just going to wait for Vega 10. Oh, speaking of the new AMD architecture, I may have been right. The current rumors for Polaris 10 are that they will be roughly, if not slightly faster than a 390 and a 390X, and they'll be super power efficient, about as power hungry as your CPU, which is just ridiculous. Insane.
Yeah, I saw that.
I'm proud of myself, and of course, the rumor mill and everything, because that's what I thought. That's exactly what I thought. I mean, that's kind of what Nvidia did with the 900 series, really. Or no, the 700 series, wasn't it? It was just basically just lower power consumption, and then the 900 series again, lower power consumption, more efficient, and just a more efficient architecture in general, in terms of CUDA core and stream processors and stuff like that. So I am definitely looking forward to Polaris and stuff like that. And again, they said the prices of the graphics cards are going to be pretty damn low, and the power, everybody has always complained about the power consumption of AMD cards, and now the power consumption is better than Nvidia, possibly on par with, if when they come out with their Pascal, but they're still running on a 16 nanometer architecture rather than a 14, so it's going to be difficult to get to where AMD are anyway. So I am definitely looking forward to when Polaris and Pascal and everything launches. That'll be an interesting battle. Then again, Pascal does seem to look like it's going to be faster, but then you got to look at Vega 10. However, that could fail a bit like the Fury X. So I'm worried but excited at the same time.
Yeah, I mean it would be nice to see AMD come back a little bit. With the way they've been releasing cards recently. Last one was kind of a refresh of the current generation, and even though it's kind of just rebadged, it was the GPUs have kind of been stagnant for a while. I feel like if they brought something new to the table, I feel like they'd do some damage, even if it wasn't as good. I feel like just bringing something worthwhile to the table at this point will help them. There are so many AMD fanboys that want them to do well and will buy the products, because ultimately we need AMD. Like it's fine to say, oh, Nvidia, always buy the fastest card, but ultimately, like, we need both companies. Like, if one of them goes, if AMD went bust and Radeon was gone, Nvidia would be the only choice. And when you're the only person, when you're the only company in the world delivering this product, you can charge whatever you want. And so that's AMD is just so important. And so I really want the next cards to be, I'm not going to say great, but I want them to be
competitive.
Competitive, that's the word. Yeah, I want them to be competitive against what Nvidia has to offer. And it's not going to be at the top end, but they are going to fight probably for that mid-range value where most of the customers are coming
It's
in.
going to be, okay? Nvidia are releasing another Titan, and they're releasing, they're going to release a 1080 and probably a 1080 Ti when the Vega 10 comes out, or even just preemptively, because screw it. They can. Because they can, they will. And they're going to be so expensive. They're going to be regular Nvidia prices, if not even more, just because that's what's been happening. Each year it's been like, oh, let's just add $50 to it. Let's just add $100 to it because everybody buys it. It's the same kind of, idea, the same kind of philosophy that Apple kind of go. They're just like, screw it. Just add $50 to it. They'll buy it anyway.
Right.
But yeah, no, I rumors are coming out, or they did at least. I don't know. I can't quite recall, but about the PlayStation 4.5 or the PlayStation Neo having a Polaris 10 GPU in it, and even if it's a low level one, like say like as power efficient as like a 370 or a 380, that's a powerful console. It won't be in a couple years, but that's a powerful console.
I doubt they would rework the entire insides of a PS4 because at that point, not selling a PS4, and then once again, games companies are making games for two vastly different consoles.
Yeah, but I mean that I'm gonna have to find the article now, aren't I?
So I know they're doing upgrades to it, but the only thing they're upgrading for is so people can stream Netflix in 4K. That is literally all it's for.
Yeah, well, I'll leave it at that. I guess I'll cover it next week if I find anything. But for now, I want to say the Steam Machine thing again, because it was a failure at the beginning, just because they came out so late. But as you said, Steam
They're
OS
not
will
really even out. They've only just started coming out really this year. The one when they first coming out was just Steam releasing theirs. Now you've got all the other companies actually rolling theirs out like they were supposed to.
Yeah, but they're horribly outdated because they were, But my point is, like I said last week, if they can stick a Polaris GPU, something like that, maybe some Zen cores or something, and they can put it out, that is gonna destroy everything. That is a fantastic little thing. A pre-built little tiny unit with that kind of power consumption, with that kind of power to it. It's going to be cool. It's going to be quiet. It's going to be fast, and that's fantastic. Hell, I'd buy one.
But what's going to be really scary is if they can get that power consumption down enough, like if they can just, even on a lower end GPU, if they can just push that down enough, and then they dump that onto a CPU die, that's going to do some really, really bad things to both Intel and NVIDIA. Because those things are big. Like the APUs, like they're never the most powerful things in the world, but a lot of people who are building like way budget gaming PCs, like they were their go-to because ultimately, like you could play with like League of Legends and stuff on it. Like
if they could stick some HBM on the CPU die, I don't know how that would work. Honestly, like that's one of the because
I think we're way off that.
Yeah, but because like just the way that the interface is, and because then it would have to, because the CPU would be separate, it would have to communicate to the RAM specifically, because it wouldn't work on a kind of desktop level. But I mean, at the like way in the future, if they could stick some HBM on an APU and have that dedicated to the GPU, then you eliminate the latency of the graphics card and the RAM, and then you've got wow, like 2-3 years down the line, AMD APUs, if they're still in business, I really hope so because that sounds amazing. That's incredible. Like, I should be a consultant for AMD.
Yeah, time to get on this.
But yeah, no, because like they always use like like 150 stream processors on their APUs to like I think maximum's like 400 or so, and that's like it's like one of the hottest, most expensive chips, and that's a really powerful APU. But because of just the simple power consumption, you could probably stick a couple, like 1,000 to, like 1,500 now, especially with this kind of like you'd have like a quad core Zen architecture processor because you'd have to you share the die, so you'd have to make it slightly smaller. But a quad core is good enough with hyperthreading, a quad core with hyperthreading with like 1,500 stream processors, and that's fantastic. That is a damn good APU, and I think that's possible with a 40 nanometer process. That's completely feasible.
And that's going to be the biggest issue, the 14 nanometer process. Because on the 16, I don't think they can do it right now. The 16 nanometer, I think they're not going to be power efficient enough. They need to go down a manufacturing process. The difficulty with that is like right now, or at least the way it has been, at least past recently, AMD don't have access to that manufacturing process, and nobody will lend them it because everybody is using it. Like 14 nanometer seems to be where it's at right now because it's becoming so much more difficult to go below that.
Do you mean just on a mass production scale for APUs? Because they're using it on GPUs, and I believe Zen is 14 nanometer.
It may well be, and they may have found. I would hope that Zen's on 14 nanometer. I'd hope that they find manufacturing by the time that rolls out publicly. I'd hope that they've found manufacturing processes. But in the past year, they've really struggled to pick up 14 nanometer process.
It is. It's 14 nanometer, yeah. But in NVIDIA, the people that actually haven't found like a place to go 14 nanometer. They're on 16 currently, for Pascal at least.
Yeah, that's difficult. You've got like the likes of Intel and Samsung, the companies that do have these kind of good manufacturing processes. The difficulty is they're just not willing to give them up because of they're just too many of their own devices.
But yeah, I mean, we can only really go down another couple nanometer increments before we hit rock bottom. Like, it's going to have to get to a point where it's next generation is 13 nanometer, next generation is 12 nanometer, because we can only really get down to 8, possibly 6 nanometer before we have to go on to quantum computing.
You say quantum computing. I will
a
still
hybrid, I guess.
I will still reserve judgment. I don't know whether quantum computing is definitely going to become a thing. Don't know whether it's going to become a thing in consumer space or anything like that. I think what's going to happen, and I might be wrong here, but I think what's going to happen is they're going to find a compound or something to replace silicon, and I think that's the way they're going to go. Like there's plenty of like things being trialed right now by both Intel and AMD, and I think they're going to find something to replace silicon, something faster, and I think they're going to try and shrink the manufacturing process.
Well, I remember somebody saying something about having a kind of hybrid where the quantum computer does all of the work, but the silicon kind of processes the information that does at lightning fast into a format that we can currently use, because quantum computers are a completely different beast to what we're currently on.
Yeah.
And we're finding that out now with IBM and their free working quantum processor. I believe it has something like 5 qubits, and you can access it online if you have any idea about quantum computing. I honestly don't. I wouldn't know how to start doing anything with that. I'd like to learn. That would be the next thing. But I mean, yeah, it's good because IBM have been trying to get something that works for a very long time, and they finally cracked it. They've got a processor that works. And what they did, I think, is fantastic. They opened it to the public. That's what you should do. I mean, I don't really know why they wouldn't, but a lot of these big companies just don't care. and it's nice to see that they have finally cracked it and opened it to the public. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, I think it's nice. I mean, looking at IBM as a company, like they used to be a somewhat consumer-based company, and they scrapped that. You know, they've got nothing to do with consumers anymore. Like they are solely focused on the server, the enterprise grade stuff. Like they don't really have any consumer level equipment really. Like all of their R&D and all that stuff goes into tech that will maybe see in consumer space in 10 years time, the sort of stuff that's going into servers, like new enterprise technology today, you know, cloud computing, a lot of that kind of deal is sorts of they work on. But it's interesting how a such enterprise business focused company would release this to the public, and you know, because obviously quantum computing is something they're working on, something which they think is going to be big, and they're probably right. But yeah, it's interesting as how a company that doesn't really care so much about the consumer would release this. I mean, I guess what it does is it sort of gives more knowledge to the consumer. Like it says, you know, that this is not only being worked on, like this is a thing, like you can access this. I think it's more of a I think this is gonna be more of a public statement, and I don't know how long it's gonna be around. Like I think give it a couple of months, they'll probably like retract it, or you know, certain entities, scientific entities, and because right now
and businesses, yeah.
Okay. Just
To
to
get
point out, 'cause I
investors.
was reading the article for it. By the looks of it, is most likely the next couple of months going to be funded by scientific research groups. The pure fact
There you
that
go.
the online thing is it places experiments in a queue for it to then work through. So by the looks of it, it's people for using it for basically figuring out experiments for simulations.
Which is what
and things.
all like supercomputers nowadays do. And this is, I mean, it may be small, but it's a quantum computer. It's pretty much a supercomputer at this point. So it's obviously going to be used for that, but nonetheless, the public has access to it. And you know, a lot of organizations, a lot of research companies and stuff will queue up and do this kind of stuff because, well, they'll do the research, they'll understand how to kind of format their queues to get the stuff done. So, but it's still nice. I think what's going to happen is, yeah, they're probably going to retract it, put it to scientific research, and also probably businesses and investors and stuff like that. But it's good to give it to the public now because
just to put out on the whole giving it to the public thing, to be able to use the quantum processor, you must put in an application form for them to look over before actually using it.
Yeah, but
So-
it's still public. It's still, yeah, that is true. And why wouldn't you do that? But it is still publicly shown. It's publicly focused.
But
it's not.
it's good to get the media coverage, to get the public aware that
That's
this
it.
is happening, as well as that gets people
Yeah.
talking about it in general, and also businesses, because you know the businesses listen to, well, hopefully listen to the people. If it gets people talking about it, it gives an awareness. Like business executives will see it on the news and be like, oh, that's interesting. And you can get investors, get this even bigger, more quantum processing and stuff like that. Bigger, more powerful 10 qubit processors, you know, just it gets the recognition that it needs. I mean, obviously it's going to have an application process. Okay, Lucas, if you were to use that quantum computer, you'd break it. Let's be honest.
Just like, you're not got actual physical access to it, remember? All you're doing is sending your experiment to them for it to then be cubed.
Yes.
You can't exactly break it with something like that. Well, unless you're some super genius and figured out a way for it to, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not giving you that.
Try and figure out
Infinite loop.
pi to.
Yeah. But I mean,
Infinite
if
places.
the total public had the access, then you know somebody could find. But then I guess that might be a good thing in the long run. If somebody does hack it or find weaknesses, then they can fix those weaknesses. So overall, it's good to open it up and just as a thing that even if it is an application process, you know, I mean, you got to have some kind of knowledge of how this kind of stuff works or some reason to use it. You're not just gonna, you know, use it to do your shopping on Amazon for 3 weeks. You know, you're gonna have a reason to do it.
You know what is going to be really scary? Is the transition between our current processors and quantum processors, assuming that's the way it goes. So theoretically, if that's the way it goes, the transition between them will be such a scary time for computing, because quantum computers are that much faster, that modern encryption will be obsolete immediately. Like you can, you know,
Oh
there
yeah,
are
it'd
there are
be
companies
dead.
using that and testing it already. Like it can break modern encryption so quickly because it's that much quicker, and it's going to become a problem. Like immediately, like the first adopters, inevitably it's going to be some bad guy. Like how it is. But the second, like or even like when this becomes in consumer space, where you've got maybe half new enthusiasts getting on top of this platform, you've got all people. I say all people. You've got other consumers just on their old platform. Like the damage, even something like this, like getting added accidentally to like a botnet or something ridiculous, or being used in the wrong hands early on, I think it could do a lot of damage, and I think it's going to get a lot of negative press, or at least some negative press to begin with, because I think encryption is going to be something which is going to have to change with this.
If
I
it's
don't
not
think it
already
will.
eradicated by the governments, which are all trying to get rid of it. But I think what's going to happen is they're going to be like a hybrid between whether it be silicon or a new compound. It's going to have to be a kind of a hybrid between the two to get the kind of because the architecture is completely different, so the software and just everything, the way you work with it's going to be completely different anyway. So you kind of need something to translate that at least into what we use currently, or what we use even like 10 years down the line, because otherwise it's going to be such a monumental shift that it's just because you see like trends like when computers were first coming out in the 70s and stuff, and IBM created their kind of standard and people went around that, and then we developed a great vast library of stuff. But before that, computers all ran on completely different things, and different offices couldn't share information with other people because the architectures, the technologies, and just everything about it, and especially the software and stuff, was completely different. So it was difficult before there was a kind of PC standard for all of these businesses to coexist with the hardware that they were using. And once the standard was in place, then it took off. And if we completely ditch every single piece of legacy kind of software and all of the backbone really of even just the internet in general, because we're still running on this kind of hardware, then we have to have something in the middle to progress on to quantum computing. And that's going to be the most difficult part, is the transition between because the first adopters of fully quantum computing will be much faster than the middle ground. But if we do just jump straight to quantum computing, it's going to be catastrophic. The fucking world's going to end.
Well, I doubt we'll ever just jump straight into quantum computing. One, mainly because of the cost, and currently of its limited uses. Because quantum computers work at such a speed that running normal day-to-day tasks, what a computer user does, would not work on a quantum computer because it can't think that slow, is the problem.
Well, it wouldn't necessarily be a problem with it thinking that slow. The software would kind of,
Yeah, but at that
factor
point,
into
you're
that.
then bottlenecking the use of a quantum computer. You're slowing it down to
Yeah,
do normal stuff. That's basically making it not worth it.
yeah.
That's why so far the use of quantum computers would be for research, calculations, simulations, and the like, because those are things that, if you can run them faster, is far more helpful.
But yeah, I don't know. It's difficult to speculate. It's such a vast. It is just in the 20th century we had more technological advancement than all of the other periods of history combined, and in the last like 15 or so years we got quantum computers running. That's incredible. That's pretty much more technological advancement than the entirety of the 20th century, just in computing, consumer goods, and technology, like driverless cars at the point. Stuff that we thought would be in like 2050 or something like that is now, available.
Yeah, but it's the same thing of when they're in the 1950s, they thought in 20, 30 years we'd have flying cars.
Yeah, true.
But if you think
So
about it, the 20th century, we learned how to defy gravity and learn to fly. The human race learned to fly. And past that, we went to space. Went to space on less computing power than is in a PlayStation 1.
yeah, but that was something funny. I believe a couple years ago, NASA they were running on Vista or something like that, and they switched to Linux. Damn, I'm gonna have to damage control that next week. That's probably completely wrong.
No, you're probably about right, because I know, I think our military runs on a lot of Mac OS. I know the Americans also use a lot of Mac computers as well for their military. For the pure fact,
no, yep.
Mac and Linux get less viruses
International
than
Space
Windows
Station. International Space Station changes from Windows to Linux. It doesn't seem to say which Windows they were running on.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was XP, because apparently a surprising amount of America still runs on XP.
Oh yeah, it was Windows XP. They were thinking of, I believe they were thinking of changing to Vista, and then realized, haha, no, and then they switched to Debian. So yeah.
Yeah, a lot of organizations like military security agencies switched over to Linux and Mac OS for the pure fact they have less viruses, so they have to contend with less issues.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's a lot, there's a lot more low-level access anyway, and you kind of need that with a space station.
Hey, they proved they can send the shuttle to space on, well, barely any computing power at all, so I don't think it makes actually that much difference.
Yeah, but you need more computing power in general to run Windows. I doubt the actual shuttle's bloody running on Windows, it's just the computers, but still. Just as a standard.
Custom written software for
yeah.
things.
But still, I mean, just in computing and operating systems in the space that they're running in, it's good to have something with that kind of that level, and that's easy to use in.
I think a lot of ours comes down just because they write a lot of their own custom software for a lot of things. So
yeah, easy to use with their software. That's what I was about to say. So next topic maybe.
Yeah.
What about this one? Broadband ads misleading and mischange, says ASA for us.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I did actually want to talk about this. So, TLDR version of broadband providers are ads are quote unquote misleading, and need to change it. They really are. UK residents will know this. Like they're just like a trash, because you get like line rental charges, and you got the charge of the thing, and then you got a charge of the thing after like however many months the deal is, but they don't really tell you that. They just kind of tell you it in the small print. It's so ridiculous. Like there's so many
half
different
the
costs.
time.
Half the time it's you'll get 50 megasecond. Oh bullshit, do you?
No, it's 50 megabits a second maximum, or 50 megabits a second average, which means half the time you'll be getting nothing, and then when you're asleep you'll be getting 100.
Not really.
But no, it's
half
like
the time you better get close to like maybe 30 or 40 sometimes.
Yeah, but I mean, I was gonna. I am currently on TalkTalk, simply because it was super cheap at the time, and it still is. We're on a very good plan. We get about 30 megabits a second, but we can't get rid of line rental. We don't want to use the fucking phone, all right? We don't need it. We have mobile phones. And we just don't use the phone whatsoever. We can't get rid of line rental. That's in our contract. That's a pain in the ass. But we were going to switch to BT, and their website is the worst. Every single time you go in it, they pretty much change what options are there. And you go in and half the time when you go to the checkout, the price is different to what every other thing was. And then like
Oh
when
yeah.
you phone them up and you ask them, they're like, oh, it's lightning fast, it's this. And it's like, no, but it's got this, and this on the website. And they're like, no. It's just it is so ridiculous. It is just to trap people that don't understand and just like I just want internet, just take my money. You know, I have to argue for an hour with these people, and like when I was getting Talk, I was on the phone for about an hour with the guys from Sky, saying that I wanted to cancel. What could they do or whatever? And like, basically just having a conversation like, oh, good one. That's some good marketing right there. Yeah, no, you nearly trapped me into that, but no, I'm smart enough to not do that. Oh, so it's only 35 megabits a second, but it's twice the price? Oh, but that's line rental. I see. No, line rental doesn't matter, does it? No, of course not. It's like, just piss off and tell me what I actually want to know.
Yeah, but the great thing with, especially with BT, is if you get annoyed with them and you call them up and ask them to solve the problem, just threaten to leave them and join another provider, and all of a sudden they're like, "Oh no, we'll do whatever you want. They'll cut your bill in half. They'll give you a couple of months free service."
Pretty
But
much.
my dad has done that so many times, and we always get like when we have to constantly call up for a new wireless box. And the last time had to literally just had a go at them until they sent us the newest box they were giving out to new customers, rather than giving us the old ones they were just piling up in warehouses.
Yeah. My mother's useless though. Like, we were with Sky and we were gonna change, and then I was away for a couple of weeks, and I came back and we had a Sky HD box, and we added like 50 fucking quid to our bill, and then we were stuck in a contract for another year and a half, and I was like, just let me handle it from now on, okay? Just I'll do it.
It's interesting how Talk kind of took the lead on saying that they agree that all providers are doing it wrong and that they're going to be the first to change and they want other providers to change with them, which is blatantly like a
It's
publicity
pandering
stunt.
bullshit to get more customers.
It's blatantly a publicity stunt, but it is interesting, especially considering like the article I was reading, like their picture was at the top of it with their like deals and how bad they were, right at the top of the page, and underneath it's like, I thought that we're going to be the first to change. It's like, well, lovely.
Yeah, it's just covering up, or trying to cover for their
Well,
complete.
at least the advert says like speeds up to 38 megs, rather than a lot of them just go, 52 megs a second.
Yeah,
Or put up to in very small print by the numbers so people don't look at it.
they're all awful though. Every single one is like, you have to have like line rental for your phone, and it's just like, why couldn't I just cut that in half and have line rental simply for my internet? All right, look, I understand that line rental is for the line that goes to my house. That I get that, but you're factoring in my telephone bill with that. Why would you do that? I want fiber, not copper.
But it's because they're all terrible anyway. It's like BT could have. Me and Dad had talked about this before. BT, was it 10-ish years ago when fibre optic was starting to become a thing? BT bought up every piece of fibre optic cable that was being sold in the country. And they basically had a monopoly on all fibre optic cable and didn't lay a single fibre optic line down
Well,
for
yeah,
internet use.
that's why Virgin had to step in, and that's why everybody like Talk and Sky and pretty much everybody that's big run off of the BT at a switch and then run copper to your house, and that's why you don't get fiber. Like, I have been waiting for Virgin to come and lay fiber in my area for such a long time. It hurts, but
Well, a lot of it comes down to that Virgin also has to fight for everything it gets, because
yeah,
like they had that whole thing with the trains a while ago, because the government didn't want to give Branson more train lines, and then Branson then had to bail out the other train companies because they went bankrupt. So it's like, oh, they don't want to give him the deal in the first place because they didn't want to give him more money. Yet they then gave it to a company that then went bankrupt, and he had to buy out.
Yeah.
But no way, have you guys seen there's a new ISP in the UK? It's relatively new, probably the last year or so, and they're not very many places right now at all. Like their area is limited, to say the least. But they're offering their packages are like. Now I'm talking off the top of my head. I could be wrong here. So
What's the name of it?
Damage control. I don't remember. Damage control. Here we come, but I'll find it in a minute. I believe the packages are 50 megabits a second, 100 megabits a second, and a gigabit a second. I know the gigabit is a thing, and so like a consumer, and like at a price a consumer can afford, like we're talking like 20 or 30 quid a month for gigabit up and down at your house.
Please find the company and let me see if I can pay them to lay fiber around here.
Is it by any chance PlusNet?
No. They're basically.
No, PlusNet have been out for years.
I'm having a look at a couple of these.
PlusNet have been out for years, and they don't even have close to a gigabit. Are you kidding me?
Is it SSE because they're showing up to 76 megabits in one of their packages?
No, it's Here, I'll link the website in chat.
I'm just having a.
I'll put a link in the video for people after the fact. But
will you though?
Maybe. Okay. Damage control. Here we go. It was 20 megabits a second for £4 a month, 100 megabits a second for £10 a month, and a gigabit a second for £22 a month.
And then 47 for afterwards. That's how they get you, but that is still incredible.
£47 for a gigabit a second.
60.
Like there are companies.
£22 a month for 100 megabits a second.
There are companies that charge. There are companies that are charging you that price for this, like less than 100 megabits right now.
I'm basically paying £30 a month for 30 megabits a second.
Yeah, exactly. Like yeah. I think
it's unlimited and everything. I mean, there's a phone cost as well, but that is triple my internet speed for the same price.
Right. That phone charge. Now, is that included in the £47, or is that on top? Because at that point, it's then £63.
It's on top. Yeah, it applies.
Yes, it's £63, but it doesn't matter. Like it's a gigabit a second. There are no companies offering this, and it's so much faster. Like
it's 10 times faster than what Virgin offers. I think they might do 200 megabits or something like that.
They do in very few areas.
5 times faster. Okay, that is incredible.
A lot of that will come down to one, people that are gonna actually sign up, because at this point, do they have any verification that they get anywhere close to these speeds? The people that already are with them. Do they even give you routers, switches, wireless equipment, which could even function at giving any device that, let alone will a device be able to access gigabits worth of fiber optic?
Lucas, gigabit Ethernet is everywhere now. Like every device supports gigabit Ethernet. Maybe not over wireless. Wireless N doesn't support it. Wireless AC.
All you really need
support it.
All you really need is what is it? A Cat 7B cable, which is an expensive
Cat 5
cable.
Is gigabit.
Cat 5 is gigabit.
Yeah, Cat 5e will do any gigabit Ethernet. Like, gigabit Ethernet's been around for a really long time.
The different categories of cable is mostly the shielding on the cable.
It's 100. Is it 10 gigabits? What was? Because Cat 7 is a different cable, isn't it? Cat 6 is still regular standard Ethernet. Cat 5 is regular standard Ethernet, pretty much all the way down, and Cat 7 is a different cable. So is that like 100 gigabits a second?
Don't forget, a gigabit is only 100 megabytes a second.
Yeah.
Which is kind of confusing in most senses.
In
computer terms, a gig is considered to be 1024.
Yeah, I forgot gigabit and gigabyte a second is different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's because when you're talking networking, you're always talking bits, not bytes. Yeah. That's because of how like packets between things are broken down, but it's not really important. But yeah, I mean, still it is impressive though. Like that company isn't many places right now, but man, if they're gonna gain some traction, if people kind of find out about them.
Yeah, it would be good if they get to a lot more places because they'll be good. The only other thing is though, because I just thought about it, actually, is people's computer hardware, not their networking hardware, because most hard drives wouldn't be able to actually process a gigabit download speed properly.
Yeah, but again, we're kind of ignoring the fact that you can get 100 megabits a second for like 30 quid a month. That's good enough.
It looks like
and then you can
it
upgrade.
looks like It looks like currently London is the only real place they're rolling it out, although they've got mass interest elsewhere. So, I mean, it's one of the things for a new provider. Eventually, they'll get big, but
Yeah, I doubt they'll hit any of the small towns anytime soon. That won't be
no,
happening.
not us. Definitely
And
not
villages,
us.
that'll never happen.
But it's like it's on the right path. I think once a company like this starts to get a little bit of traction, other people are going to catch
not
on.
in my area.
I think other people will catch on. And I think eventually, like, you know, as a company like this goes bigger and people realize that, oh crap, you know, gigabit internet to people's houses is something they want and something which ultimately in the internet age is something we need. More companies are going to start to offer this, and that's a good thing about the UK. Something that the US has struggled with and always will continue to struggle with, as far as I'm concerned, is there is no competition there. Like when you go to any place in America, like you've got like one provider, maybe two, and that's your provider.
No. The problem is there's competition, but they have agreements with each other not to go to each other's cities. So.
But yes, that's my point exactly. Like there is only limited providers. Whereas here, the country's so small, and all the networks run off the same kind of infrastructure that ultimately, you can't not be competitive here. And so as soon as one company starts getting traction with like gigabit Ethernet, gigabit internet, other companies are going to have to get behind this, or risk losing their customer base. And that's one thing that's kind of plagued ISPs here, and it's great for the consumer.
Damn,
Yeah,
I feel...
even their base package, which even at £9 a month afterwards, is still better than any of BT's ones, which are £5 a month at £18 for line rental a month, which is only 17 meg with a limit of 12 gigabyte usage.
Yeah, I mean this is unlimited and as fast as my internet. You know, this is insane. This company, I hope they grow and get big because this is like the new Virgin internet. Really, I hope like in a couple years that Virgin get up to that standard and then they have competition by this company.
You know what's really sad is it's not like this infrastructure doesn't already exist. Like my company, the company I work for, has 10 gigabit internet on a direct fiber line to our server rack, like 10 gigabits into the switch, like that. And that infrastructure exists. Like we're not the only company in our area to do it, and it's available to businesses, and that kind of 300 400 megabits from BT is widely available, and it's not the most like for 10 gigabits a second, that's 1 gigabyte a second download, effectively, give or take nonsense with TCP packages.
That's the one where you need the Cat7, right?
Yeah, and we're talking like 10 gigabit switch, 10 gigabit Ethernet cards, all this kind of nonsense.
I'm guessing your company has a T1 leased line.
Yeah, we do have a leased line, but the point
European
is, the point is that the technology and infrastructure exists. It's there. It's in like non-rural areas, like it's there, and it's just not being leveraged. And I think it's this company that come along. They're probably not going to make it big, but the second it starts to catch on, BT will up their game, and so will, because they up their game. Obviously, all of the companies utilizing that infrastructure will as well, and I think it will happen very quickly. Because it already exists. It's already there. All of the fiber, even like out here, we're in a small town that's surrounded by lots of little villages, and there's fiber everywhere. Those sorts of fiber connections are available in the small villages for businesses. It's just not available to the consumer yet. And I think as soon as something like this catches on, it's going to make a big change quick.
Like cost to reward for them isn't worth it half of the time. Oh, they just can't be bothered because of the cost of doing it.
Yeah, I mean,
they're very short-sighted because in the long run they're going to make so much money because they could keep it on a very low speed even, but just get the infrastructure there, and then even even for the short game, throttle the people for the next 5 years or something, and then bump up the prices, bump the speeds, and people will buy it. But if the infrastructure's there, then they've got a long-term plan.
Yeah, but that's the thing. These are companies which don't care about that. They're using it as leverage for when governments decide, oh, we want these as a requirement. They can then leverage whatever prices they want to put these lines down. If they do it beforehand, then they'll make less money. They're technically doing it because they'll make more money waiting.
I think it comes down to the fact that in the UK, ISPs are just content. Like, people are buying all of their packages and not really utilizing all of the lines, and people are just buying it, and that's totally fine. And they're content with the fact that that is the price of it, and everybody sells it for the same thing. And that's it's kind of stagnant. It's been stagnant for a long time. Like, it's always been that Virgin's offered this much, and BT and everybody else who uses their infrastructure offers this much, and they're all offering the same speeds at similar prices, similar deals, because they're content with that. They're content with the fact that the consumer will just buy that, and it just takes a company like this to change the game.
Well, yeah,
for
because
everyone.
I mean, BT pretty much have a monopoly because they provide to all of the other companies, and then Virgin have their own kind of market because they have their own infrastructure that's only in specific places. So some people are stuck with that. So it definitely this company. I mean, they seem to be in the kind of more upper and middle class areas. Obviously, I kind of live in a bit of a
They're starting in
shithole,
areas
so.
where they'll make the most money
Yeah.
for the smallest amount of infrastructure. You start in a city, you don't have to put technically down as much infrastructure for lines because there's a lot of people in a small space. When you start getting into the countryside, you have to put down far more infrastructure to reach everywhere.
Yeah, and a lot more boxes to actually carry the signal still. I mean, fiber does go a lot longer, but it doesn't.
So we start to get into different types of cabling and all that kind of nonsense.
Yeah, fun times.
But speaking of the internet in general, Opera browser seems to be kind of viable now. Like, it used to be a browser that I used to think was just laughable and horrible and awful in every way. I mean, a lot of people disagree and they like Opera, but kind of felt like it was a slightly better Internet Explorer. But now they're rolling out like a inbuilt ad block, which is kind of nice, and I believe there's like features to turn it off on certain sites and stuff, like regular ad block, which is good. As well as they have kind of planned and they've been planning for a while to add just a built-in VPN, which is amazing. If both of those things are functional, if both of those things aren't blocked on like most sites, then I'm just gonna switch because Firefox is kind of crap. I mean, I use it just because I don't like Chrome and all their data mining, and they keep all your passwords and all that dodgy kind of stuff. It is the best browser. It's just I don't like what they do with it. So I need a new platform, and I think Opera will be that one.
The difficulty is I fear, and maybe I wrongly fear this, I fear that Opera will become the next Tor browser. I think that with the built-in VPN, people and the stigma that's currently attached to the Tor browser, like if you use it, you're obviously a criminal or something,
or a pedophile
like
or something.
That's
like
it.
that,
like
yeah.
You're obviously doing bad. I think if it comes with a built-in VPN and that becomes a big selling point, it could go the same way, and I feel like it will start to have a bad stigma attached to it, which will also make people shy away from it when they shouldn't. Like, if everybody adopted it, then nobody would be doing anything wrong. If a minority adopted it, then they're obviously all doing something wrong,
True, but again, you still have like things like cookies that are active and stuff. With Tor browser, it turns everything off, and you're completely anonymous. With Opera, you're still gonna get like people taking your data and stuff. It's just gonna be like, well, where am I taking that data from, in a way, And I like that just from a sense of even browsing Netflix. Half of the stuff that we have in the UK for Netflix, just is I mean, half of the stuff for the rest of the world that we don't have in the UK in Netflix, and some like very few things that we have exclusively in the UK. I think like 3, 4 shows, um, and it's just like I like to get around, like especially with something like YouTube as well. It's blocked in your country and stuff like that. If you just tell someone, hey, open it in an Opera browser and you can watch whatever, that's nice to have.
Yeah, usually a lot for YouTube, usually that not viewable in your country is for copyright and legal reasons. That's literally it, because they don't have licensing
Yes.
for
Yeah.
it, as well as for YouTube's fair use policy, for it to help protect YouTubers from copyright claims. They only allow us videos to be shown in America, so they can only basically rule under American law
Yes.
rather than any other.
Which is why I was using a VPN for quite some time. But it costs quite a bit, and overall I couldn't be bothered. But if it's a free built-in VPN on a web browser, then
If my
sign
laptop
me
work,
right
I
up.
have actually got a free VPN built into a plugin for Firefox, but my laptop stopped working.
Hmm.
I really want to watch American Netflix.
Yeah, I mean the difficulty is like something which I feel will come with it is that with the built-in VPN, yes, it's fine. People are gonna be like, oh, I can watch Netflix in other countries. Well, that's great. Apart from Netflix is has been and will continue to start banning people for that. And you don't realize what you're doing anything wrong, and then all of a sudden your Netflix account gets banned, and you're like, oh, great.
Well,
And you didn't know that
they'll
was going to
probably do the
happen.
easiest thing is, because it's a built-in VPN, it'll be very easy for them to figure out what ports it uses and just block them. Then you're back to square one.
It depends how they do it, though.
Yeah.
It depends. There are so many different ways to go about it. It depends. Maybe, maybe not. Depends how to anonymize it and stuff. But I think ultimately it's going to come with its own set of issues, and time will tell how that plays out. But I don't know.
Well, yeah, like I said, I'm gonna wait, see how it turns out, and if it's solid, if it works, then I'm gonna use it. But for now, Firefox is it's terrible, but it's what I use.
Yeah, but would
Yeah,
you
quite.
prefer to use Chrome or, worse yet, use Internet Explorer?
Yeah.
I think you guys are like overlooking like Chromium, which is still technically Google Chrome, but open
I haven't really
source.
looked at Chromium.
It's
Yeah, I kind of forgot that existed.
Effectively it's its own like. Google kind of took the Chromium project and made Google Chrome from it. Like that's where Google Chrome originated from. But it's its own browser in its own right. It's still open source. Google now owns it technically, so it's maintained by Google, but it still has open source contributions to it. But it's not. It doesn't have any of the Google stuff in it or anything like that. It's still very much as it was, even to the fact that true to open source software, it doesn't come with anything like H.264. You can't watch YouTube videos on Netflix or anything on it unless you install third-party codecs, which you can do easily. It's really easy to do, but they can't ship it because then they can't, licensing and all that kind of nonsense.
Fair enough.
But it is, and you can sign to Google with it. You can get all the same features you could on Google Chrome. It's just Google doesn't, necessarily log all the stuff it would do in Google Chrome on there.
I might have to check that out.
I'll stick with Firefox. I'm happy with it.
No, I have too many tabs. It crashes on
Try not
like every
having a
2
couple
hours.
of hundred open then.
Well, I have enough RAM. I'm gonna use it.
Just because you have it doesn't mean you have to use it.
Yeah, but I mean, I do like my tabs. I like my tabs, all right. I like having my tabs.
Why is it so hard to just bookmark a page and then you can just open the page when you need to look at it, not have it permanently open?
Because I don't ever check my bookmarks, probably because there's nothing in it. But it's catch-22, all right. Look, just leave me alone
I have
with
maybe
my tabs.
maybe 300 bookmarks on my Firefox. Because
Fucking
they're
hell.
well, actually probably less now. I'd probably say 200 high end. But it's like that's the easy way of doing it. because you and all your bookmarks, I will say this, you are like my mother, and that is why her laptops ended up running so slow, because she decided, oh, I'm going to have 100 browsers open. Not like tabs, actual browsers. She didn't understand how tabs work.
Nice. But I mean, I have 3 browsers of Firefox open on each monitor with around 50 or so tabs each. Because can. And also a lot of stuff I wouldn't necessarily bookmark. It's just stuff that, like, if I have it as a tab related or something, I'll maybe go back and finish a video, or I mean I could just put it in watch later, but I never check that. And also a lot of stuff like is just reference material for people, or like videos I think people will find funny, so I'll have it on like my first monitor as a tab, like 3 across, and then I'll scan through and there'll be like related things to it. And research and stuff helps with the multiple tabs. I can have it on different monitors all over the place. It's a bit of a mess, but I'm used to it. It's just how I work and how I go about things, and it's worked pretty well. And all I have to do is close Firefox every now and then, put up with a couple YouTube videos playing over each other for about a minute, and then get back to work.
Well,
It's
usually
fine.
when you close and reopen a browser, the YouTube videos won't start playing until you go to the tab and reload the page.
Well, no, because I have the browser, like 3 instances of the browser open. So
and all of them are apparently on YouTube videos at the same time.
Yeah, most often, yeah.
Christ.
I make it a habit to put it on Facebook or Twitter or something, because I don't really check those, but they're quiet. They're not YouTube videos. So if I know it's gonna crash, I'll switch a couple of them over to Facebook and Twitter and stuff, so I don't have so many fucking videos playing. But I think we have gone to around the time, and I kind of want to go and play some more Overwatch.
Overwatch sucks. Dawn of War 3 for the.
Overwatch is fantastic. I love it. Okay, and I will probably play Dawn of War as well. So there you go.
Everyone should play Dawn of War, because the new Dawn of War 3 is coming out sometime this year, hopefully.
Hopefully.
All games suck in comparison. I'm done.
Fair enough.
Okay. Would you like to mention your Twitch stream, Lucas?
Yes, you can find me at twitch.tv/Usura91. You can also find me at Twitter at Kinski91, and yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, he'll be playing terrible games because they're not Dawn of War 3.
Badly.
That's basically it. Until Dawn of War 3 comes out, I am playing terrible games.
Badly.
Bad games played badly.
Bad games played badly.
What about you losers? Where can we find you guys?
At
You can't.
Twitter on Alcarius Endgame, and other than that, you can bugger off.
Just type Penguin into Google and you'll find him.
Oh.
Nah, bringing up that old gem, are we?
Boom!
Close. Well, I'm not anywhere other than like on this YouTube channel, but chances are, if they found the YouTube channel, you found it. So
we have a website that's not done yet.
Maintenance mode.
Yeah, I think it. Yeah, that is the website. It's been the website for about a year now. It's just, oh look, Pixitle.net.
You should occasionally just
maintenance
put
mode.
the maintenance page like images in the background.
You should have a like a bouncing little
I'm
thing.
Seriously getting a t-shirt.
Screensaver.
With maintenance mode. I'm seriously getting a t-shirt with that written on.
Absolutely. I would wear that. Seriously, that's a fantastic t-shirt. Every now and then, if we get a fan base, we should just take down the website and put it on maintenance mode for no reason.
You just have it send you to a troll page.
we should buy another domain just to have the maintenance mode.
I'll just start a new website, maintenancemode.pixitle.net. It's just the maintenance mode logo. Anyway, enough of that absolute nonsense. Thanks for watching, guys. I guess we'll try and fail again next week.
Tune in next time for a lot of damage control.
And more of this penguin.
About an hour of damage control, about 5 minutes of actual topics. That's gonna be next week. Tune in.
At least we didn't mention Fallout 4 this time.
Way to go.